Good morning. Our hand today is going to be Ace Queen. In this hand, I'm in the hijack and I open raise. My hijack range is going to be something like this. Definitely trying to increase the number of hands that I'm playing, so I do have some weaker hands. I'm trying to take advantage of situations where people fold too much. You can see that we have a couple of loose players, 26%, 28%, VPIP, maybe 24% in the blind. But still, Ace Queen's a pretty solid hand, and I get 3-bet. 3-better, 3-bets at about 8%. Just overall, it's 8%. You can see he's in mid position, he's 3-bet 13%, button he's 3-bet 21%, small blind 3-bet 3%. I don't think he's necessarily playing positionally, but I do think he's going to have a much wider 3-bet range than what is typical for players at the stake. So this is 8.75%. I think this gives us pretty good starting place right here. He's got some strong hands, get a couple of draws here that we could be up against. Now the question is, what do we do? Do we 4-bet? Do we call? I believe I just called. This is a situation where I think I look at, the range of hands that he's calling. If I 4-bet, I think it reduces his hands down to like kings plus ace king, and that's not really what I want to do. I want to keep like ace queen, ace jack in there. I want to keep king queen in there, queen jack, especially if a queen hits. I want to be able to have him out kicked if an ace kicked, or if an ace, I guess if an ace or queen gets there. I want to have the opportunity to have him out kicked, and I think the way we could do that is to go ahead and call. So am I going to be calling with all of them? No. I think we're really narrowing what hands we call with here based on his range. I think we are looking at something maybe like this. It's what we're calling. It's questionable to include that king jack. I think ace 10 suited's okay, not the greatest. That's probably the weakest that I think I could play here. But I think this is going to be my calling range here. So we see a board, ace, what is it, 10-6. And it's on us. We're not going to be betting here. We hit top pair. We've got a second kicker. That's pretty darn good for us. We have a possibility of hitting trips with with tens. We don't have aces. That's kind of the downside of it. We shouldn't. So I think we end up checking to the villain, who bets half pot. Now, what do I think he's doing this with? Well, let's check his c-bet stats. His c-bet stats is basically very high. I think he's going to be c-betting this almost 100% of the time, probably 100% of the time. He's c-betting because the ace is favorable. Even in a 3-bet pot, I would assume he's going to be betting that. No made hands would be those middle ones like king, queen, king, jack. Queen jack, would he be betting those? Maybe not. But, it is 80%. I guess in a 3-bet pot, you have to give credit to me having an ace. So maybe this is one of the times where he's in position and he chooses not to c-bet. The board's just not favorable, or probably a little bit more favorable to my hand because I raised and then I called. Let's just do that. Let's assume he doesn't have that king queen, and he's got these hands. So he bets those. What do we call with? Well, I think top pair is too strong to fold. So I think we are supposed to call this. I think we could call with the gut shot just to see. I think he's going to be scared of king. If he's going to be betting a king, queen, jack, I believe. But on those hands, he's probably going to check behind on the turn because he'll be worried that I have. he'll be worried that I have that ace. So I think top pair plus, I think we've got our gut shot, our 2-card backdoor flush draws. Pocket pair less than the top card. Yeah, I think we're going to have to call these. We do have a lot of hands that we're calling with, almost 100% just like check call. You can see we've got, we're just strong range is really what we have. Do we have any opportunity to check raise? I don't think so. I think today I look at this board, and I think the board's just so good for both of our ranges that I don't think we could profitably check raise. I think the only check raise we could make would be like with aces. And even then, what do we balance that with? So since I can't think of other hands to balance the check raising with, I think it's probably just better to check call. I think we've got a lot more hands that are going to be check calling, that we just throw in our aces and our tens in that check calling range. If we had like a flush draw out, or if this was, let's say, a 9, maybe we could check raise our aces, our tens, and then we also check raise our open and a straight draw. Maybe even if we had, I think I said if this was a diamond, now we add our flush draws to it. Then I think we could check raise. But here, I think check raise is a little too aggressive. So I did check raise. We're going to start ignoring my hand at this point because I don't think we should be check raising. So we'll kind of continue with like assuming I was going to be check calling. So what kind of hands is Villain going to call with? I think now he's going to be folding those. I think he's going to be folding the tens, jacks, queens, kings. I can't imagine that he's going to be calling with those. So, but you know, there is a possibility. It's at 50% that he calls with those. There we go. And he's calling with all this top pair. I think sets he just calls, 2 pair he just calls. Just kind of get a little trappy. And he does call. So now we see a turn. Turn's a 2. I think given how we played it, we almost have to lead here. We raised it. Villain has 63.4. We should just be betting 100%. Based on the hands that we could have. But again, I don't really have any bluffing cards, any draws cards, and of course the 2 didn't help. So whoever's still ahead is probably still ahead. So I'm pretty certain I did bet all of that, pushed them all in, and Villain called. I don't like that. I think I don't like my check raise, but once I did check raise, I think this could be a reasonable play. Now the question is, with my hand, ace queen, how do I like it? I actually don't care for it, because when we think about what hands do we beat and that would call, would ace jack really call here? I don't know. I think ace queen calls, ace king calls, aces, ace 10 calls. So I think we're almost just going for a split pot. I don't think jacks, queens, or kings are going to call. I think I'm betting it so large. I think I'm hopeful to get ace king to fold, maybe, but I just don't. You don't see those players fold, so I think this is just reckless. He's going to call, and now, you know, we go down, see the river. Doesn't improve me. I'm going to be expecting to see at least ace king or better. Maybe a 10% chance that he has ace queen. And he shows aces, so he shows trips. Not really surprised. So definitely messed this one up. Let's go back and see this situation. So he bets. If I just call here, I think on the turn, we check again, and he'll probably bet. All right. When we get to this spot, Yeah, oh yeah, we didn't even get it. Yeah, at this point. Anyways, but when we get to this spot, with the 2, if and we check, I think we check to him, and he bets again. Are we raising? I don't think we're raising again. I think at this point he's not going to be betting those pocket pair less than the top card. He's not going to be betting any of the weaker hands. I also don't think he's going to be betting ace jack. I bet he doesn't bet ace queen either. I think ace king bets. I think your ace 10 bets. I think your sets bet. So if he bets again, it's going to be a tough fold. It's almost like a nitty fold, but it's something we have to pay attention to. Now he is aggressive, so you do have 81% c bet, 80% c turn barrel, and then 50% river. So maybe this is a player where we're gonna have to call. I don't like it, but I think we might have to call with top pair second kicker, just to combat the aggressiveness. Again, do I think he's going to be continue betting? Not really. I just don't. Maybe he does. Maybe he continues firing because he's hoping that I have maybe a 10, and he's going for value. Or maybe he's hoping that I have ace with a weak kicker and I fold with when he has jacks, queens, or kings. That's a possibility. So I think let's look at some other players like this guy. If he fires the flop, I'm calling. But then if he fires a turn, I think we could be justified in folding because his continuation bet on the turn, that turn barrel is half the frequency of the flop, his flop barrel. This guy's maybe he goes from 70 to 80% down to low 60s. So he's probably going to be aware that he might not barrel again. This guy not so much. I think he's c betting a low enough frequency that he's c betting his better hands, and then he's probably checking them to try to induce. But on this guy is just being aggressive. So what would I have done in game? I think I call the flop. On the turn, I probably see this number and say, well, I guess I'm going to have to call. And then on the river, if he bets again, so 3 barrels, that's, I think at that point we could probably fold. I don't think his stats suggest that he's a lunatic. Like if we had a guy with 500 hands and this was his stats, I'm thinking he's just gonna bet. But not so much with this guy. All right, hopefully you enjoyed this. If you do, look tomorrow for another hand.